Let's take a look at Xcode right here. So right now, this is what Xcode looks like. And one of the most common misconceptions that beginners have is that you need to know how every little button works before you actually go ahead and do something. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. Just because you don't know what maybe this line does at the bottom here doesn't mean you're not going to be a good developer. All it means is that you don't know what this one little line does, and it might not even be important for you to releasing an app, making money, etc. So the one thing we do need to worry about right now is this box right here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this up, and if you look very closely, this here is the SpriteKit file here. Okay, and within that file there's a bunch of other files that will allow you to make your game, and really this is more like a folder than a file. Okay, so we have our SpriteKit, and you notice this is the name of the project here. Okay, now we have a whole bunch of .swift files, and if we take a look at this here, and I'll zoom out, you can take a look, and it looks, you know, fairly complicated. Do you need to know what all of this does? Well, in this particular Swift file, no, we don't. Now, if you are releasing a game or an app, you might need to know what some of these functions do, but you might not as well. The way that I like to do it is I like to learn what something does when I need to use it. So the way that I do it is that if I needed to use, for example, this function here, I would go and look it up if I needed to use it within the Apple help documentation. Okay. Now we have our game scene here, and we also have our game scene.swift. This is the main Swift file that we are going to be working with here. Okay, and as you can see, there's a bunch of different code in here, and you can see that we have our touches began, etc. Okay, let's take a look at our game controller.swift here. Now, there is a bunch of items here that we will need to go ahead and look at, but we're just taking a look at the main Xcode document right now. The main storyboard is actually pretty important. So the way that Apple likes you to make their products is they want to have a visual representation, and then you hook up that visual representation manually to the code. So this game scene here is exactly what this view controller is this is exactly what you would go and set up your game to be. Now there's nothing in here, and we'll talk a little bit about that in another tutorial here. Okay, and we also have a launch screen here, and you can see that the launch screen is just simply, you know, test SpriteKit here, and if you wanted to, you could change this to, you know, game loading, something like that. Okay, and then we can just do that here, and then of course you have the copyright Mammoth Interactive at the bottom here. You can change this to whatever you want here, and one of the things that I like about Apple is that they now give you this option here. Okay, now hopping back to this side of the screen, there's a bunch of other options here. Okay, now you do use this info.plist, but that's more for when you're uploading to the App Store. Okay, and we also have our products here. So, in short, we need to essentially work with three items. We need to work with the game scene.swift, the main storyboard, and then the launch screen. And we do use this game view controller.swift as well. Okay, so that is a brief introduction to Xcode. Let's talk a little bit more about the game in the next tutorial. This concludes the tutorial.